Greetings, everybody. Maximus here with some more good Boeing news. On Thursday, May 29, Boeing Rockstar CEO Kelly Ortberg said that Boeing plans to increase monthly production of its 737 MAX to 47 jets by the end of the year. And not only that, but to resume deliveries to China next month. Of particular importance to the Puget Sound region, Ortberg also said Boeing was planning to dedicate a new production line in its Everett factory to the 737 MAX 10, the largest variant of its workhorse jet, but it has yet to be certified to carry any passengers as Boeing waits on the FAA. It was way back in 2023 that Boeing first announced plans for the new MAX production line in Everett, which would see its first expansion of work in Washington state since 2016 if this happens, but it has yet to start producing planes on that part of the factory floor. However, the new line is believed to expand Boeing's capacity to produce the 737 MAX, adding to the 3 existing MAX assembly lines already in Renton, in order to keep up with heavy customer demand. Boeing was able to add the extra MAX line in Everett as other jobs ended, while also moving production of other jets elsewhere on the factory, so this freed up space on the factory floor. The facility in Everett, of course, is famously the largest manufacturing building in the world. Boeing ended production of the Everett-built 747 and moved manufacturing of its 787 widebody to Charleston, South Carolina. Speaking at a financial conference on May 29, Ortberg said Boeing would use that new Everett production line for the 737 MAX 10 because it has the most complexity and would likely require a slower rate of production. Ortberg said clearing the 737 MAX 10 to a separate line would allow Boeing to keep its other 3 MAX production lines in Renton moving smoothly and expeditiously. That plan is still a ways off, Ortberg said, and the FAA still has not certified the MAX 10 or the smaller MAX 7. However, Boeing hopes to complete that process later this year. In the meantime, Ortberg said, our focus is getting the MAX production systems through the first rate increase. The FAA has limited production of Boeing's most popular plane model since the terrifying incident in January of 2024. When we all remember a panel blew off an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9 mid-flight. Since then, Boeing has worked with the FAA to execute a safety and quality plan to change its manufacturing process and company culture. Boeing executives, including Ortberg, have said the company is seeing progress and slowly increasing 737 MAX production, though it has yet to reach the FAA's cap of 38 planes per month. Also on Thursday, however, Ortberg said Boeing was very quickly approaching that rate. Still, he added the company would need to secure approval from the FAA to increase production beyond that cap, but once it gets the green light to do so, it feels comfortable that it is still meeting performance metrics at the increased production rate. Ortberg said Boeing will continue to increase the rate in increments of 5, moving from 38 per month to 42 and then 47. He expects each rate increase could take about 6 months, so if Boeing moves from 38 to 42 mid-year, it could be preparing for a move to 47 by the end of 2025, Ortberg explained. But having said that, he said, if we're not ready, we won't do it. Boeing will follow the same process of reviewing internal metrics with the FAA before attempting to raise the rate. But Ortberg is optimistic about that review because the company just went through a similar process with the FAA to increase production of its widebody 787 from 5 to 7 per month. And aviation experts weren't worried about Boeing's production threshold. Several people who spoke to the Seattle Times in March said the company was poised for recovery if it continued its quality and safety improvement focus. But increasing output of the MAX is important for Boeing because it brings in the cash. Of course, Boeing had faced financial setbacks since the 2 deadly MAX crashes in 2018 and 2019, and then the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted aviation supply chains, and a 2024 machinist strike halted the company's Pacific Northwest factories. The cash flow of selling planes is obviously very material to their financial health, Seattle University business professor Joseph Phillips told the Seattle Times in March. Not being able to put more planes out the door and ship them to customers just makes it harder to come back. But on Thursday, Ortberg also addressed concerns about another potential setback for Boeing. He said the company would begin delivering planes again to China, a key market, of course, that was briefly closed due to Boeing's tariffs from Donald Trump. But China's major airlines stopped taking deliveries of Boeing planes in April in response to a 145% tariff. The two countries have since reached a deal to pause that tariff and reciprocal tax hike imposed by China for 90 days. China is a key market for Boeing, but the country has scaled back its orders before, including after tariffs imposing during Trump's first term in office and after the fatal MAX crashes. Boeing had 50 deliveries slated for China this year, including 9 for planes that are not even yet in production, Ortberg said in April. But on Thursday, Ortberg said China indicated airlines would begin taking Boeing deliveries again, and the first deliveries will begin next month. Overall, Ortberg echoed the optimism for the company's recovery that he's had since taking over as CEO in August. The mantra of getting the company turned around, restoring Boeing back to the iconic brand that we all know and want is underway. Our team is committed to making the necessary changes to continue with that momentum. So with that, you're all caught up on the most recent good news for Boeing. As always, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. So let me know down below. And until next time, this is Maximus.